Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Dashcoin Research Podcast. I'm your host, Nicholas Wenzel, and today I have Ultra with me. Ultra is the founder of Loudio, and he also created one of the good Believe dashboards, kind of like Believe Screener, but a little bit better. What was that one called, Ultra?
Yeah, it was Dashcoin, worthless
Yeah,
Dashcoins.
yeah. His is called Worthless Dash Coins, and my coin is called Dashcoin. And we have the same coin name. Welcome to the show, Ultra. It's great to have you here. So, the reason we're here today is because I saw a post that you had made, and it was very bearish on internet capital markets in their current form. One snippet from it is you said, the reason ICM won't work and is a fake narrative is extremely simple. No actual valuable company will give up control over all of its token supply and donate 50% of all fees to a platform like Believe. Only vibe coders, scammers, or both will ever use this method for launching. Ultra, it's great to have you here, and I'd love for you to expand on that thought more.
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, I guess uh, the idea behind vibe coders or scammer launching is just observing what's happening, right? And as I was telling you before the recording started, I think it is all about selling dreams, both from Believe and from the coins that launch with it. Um, we've both created a coin for our project. Um, Mine was partially vibe coded. I think you might have done the Dune part yourself and then created the UI side with AI, right? So just observing both from our personal experiences and looking around at what's happening, it's all about creating very simple projects, launching them on Launchcoin or Believe, and then selling a dream to people that what you did is more than is more complicated than what it actually is. Also looking at the current top coins, it's all very simple projects. I forgot the name. There's one that is a shopping assistant, which is something that was byte coded probably 5 times during the DAOs.fun era, just with a different label, right? It's very simple to build kind of things that you can do in a couple of days. You know, you can refine the UI in um, yeah, more or less
Now,
time. But yeah,
yeah, let me jump in there. So the shopping assistant I think you were looking at is maybe Dupe. Is that the one
yeah,
that you're
yeah,
talking
right.
about? So yeah, I don't think they vibe coded their thing in a little bit. I'm not sure what all goes into it, but they are a company of I think 4 employees, and they've been working on it for a while, and they do quite a bit of revenue. So I don't know how easy it is to recreate their product, which is what you're saying is like it's very simple to create such a product, right? And they coined it. I think I see what your point is though. You're saying like that problem where like I can go vibe code an app and then go post it and people will bet on it. That attracts either short-term people or outright scammers, someone who vibe codes like part of it and then promises way more. I see that problem. But I think what I'm seeing, so I've interviewed about 20 founders now. Most of these people are not crypto native. They're just Web 2 guys with an app that they have been working on for 6 months plus, and not just vibe coding, like they're actual coders making more complicated things. And they kind of launched without fully knowing what it means to have a token. So I want to give that bit of context there, and then let you keep expanding on your part because I kind of jumped in there. And I want to let you finish
Yeah,
about your point.
yeah, no, absolutely no. So for Dupe, I don't know personally the background story on their team or what they said. I just know that multiple forks of that launched with vibe-coded experiments, which feel very similar to their UI during the DAOs.fun meta. For example, there was Pbot, which again they built in probably less than a week. Built a DAOs.fun token around it and launched it, which feels extremely similar. Now, I don't know if they were trying to do the same and they took longer, or what's the difference there? But it is all things that we saw before, and we know that it doesn't take a long time building. Now, one could tell you that it takes a long time, or maybe they have more refining in the algorithm and so on. But yeah, that's how I see it. Um, but in general, like you mentioned, there are Web2 people that didn't know, uh, like we're about to launch in a non-Web3 way, and they were onboarded on the other hand and try with a token. That's, that's the powerful part about ICM, which I like, right? It's about onboarding creators that way. But also there's an inflation of how interesting a product is coming from this. And uh, the thing I don't like with the current system would believe is that once you do launch as a creator, you're giving up all of your token supply, right? Which should translate to equity in a sense. Like you cannot do anything extra with those tokens, right? Create any kind of mechanism, sell extra to investors. You're just tied there. And then you're also tied in a cycle of hype because you only generate fees through um, for trading and speculation. So you are also incentivized to be a little bit of a scammer yourself if you want to keep attention. You need to constantly push fake narratives about your fake updates if you want to keep the cycle of speculation going. That's what the incentive mechanism is. It's not about building and pushing an update per month. It's about keeping the attention going no matter how legal it is, in a sense.
Yeah.
So,
You make
yeah.
a great point that like they're kind of showing that the fees, like if we focus on that as the main source of funding, then yes, like we need to encourage speculation for these builders, which is really exhausting for them because, like I said, they're mostly not crypto native people, and they hate like posting on Twitter. They're like, they're competing with people who are really good at posting and constantly doing that, but they're just like guys trying to build their apps. So I'd say that's like, yeah, that's I want to reframe it that that's like not the main source of funding because I think the bigger issue you raised is that we give away all the token supply. We have no option if when we launch on Believe, we have no option to say I want to hold 90% of the supply and launch with 10%, um, and that makes it so that you can't get much of your own supply. You have to buy it off the open market, and you can get like sniped, so you don't actually get a lot of your own token, and that's a big problem because then if you don't have a lot of your own token and then you are incentivized to just get those trading fees because that's the only source of funding that you can get if your project succeeds. If you hold none of your own token and the project goes up a lot, like you don't make money because you don't have any equity, so to speak. You don't have any of your own token. And you have the fees then. And then you kind of you rely on those fees more. So I feel like we could fix that problem where people are reliant on the fees by just giving them the option to have more of their own supply so that they can just like pump the token price and then sell a little bit at over time to fund their operations and to be rewarded for their work, and then have maybe the fees either go away or be like a cherry on top. And I'm curious to get your thoughts on that kind of framework.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a step in the right direction. It's more like so far we've talked about small solo devs or small teams which are trying something, which I think, it is in the end the target audience. I just don't understand when people will tell you that the next unicorn will launch on Belief because you absolutely do not want to give up control over your assets as a company. If you have a actually valuable idea, you would never use a Launchpad. You want to have tight control over everything. Also for centralized exchange listings, if you really want to go that way, or you might not want to launch with a token itself and use the better marketing method, which is point system and all the referrals on top. So. Um, if you are a valuable company, you want much more tight control over your things. Believe can work and can be improved with tighter control over token vesting schedules and so on, but it will always be only targeting uh, either shorter term projects or people that just found out about it and maybe want to try their weekend project on it. It's always about smaller ideas, or MVPs. If I was someone that launched on Believe and my app blew up, um, yes, I would maybe try to honor people that bought my token and stuff, but I will probably keep that as MVP and then create a secondary platform where I have tighter control over it. Because that's the sensible thing to do if you have something valuable, right?
Yeah, it's a real problem. The whole like not having any of your own supply and not having tight controls over it. It's a big thing that I want to encourage the Believe team to focus on adding functionality to customize your launch. Like, if you had much more control over the like fees that are spread, like maybe you don't want your token to have a 2% like fee every time there's a transaction. Maybe you want only a 0.1% or you want no fee. Like that. You need to be able to have those options and to have, to launch with not all the supply to the public. You need to keep some for yourself. Like all those details need to be different. And so, Ultra, I want to get your perspective on, let's say tomorrow morning you wake up and you're Ben Pasternak all of a sudden. What do you do with the Believe platform? Like, what are the first things that you would change?
Good question. Um, I think what he has, which is powerful, is again the ability to sell this dream that he's connected with Web2 interesting people that he might onboard with their audience, right? That's the only position of strength that he has, and selling this dream. What he can do is probably expand what Believe is from this kind of like vibe coded-ish, again, a platform itself, because it's not extremely complicated, right? It feels more like Web2 people trying Web3 for the first time and stumbling and breaking a few things. It is not built very professionally to something which is maybe feels more like a toolkit for people to launch. The powerful thing that they have is the attention side of it, and I like the fact that they were doing verification, or I don't know, like promotion. How do they call the stamp when a coin got graduated? I don't know.
It's like
Um,
featured. They feature it on
exactly,
their app.
exactly. So the fact that anybody can launch anything, but then there is tighter control on who gets to be promoted, because that feels like the ultimate thing that every project wants, and it kind of focuses attention on one project at a time. That was very powerful. So the attention and also attention with the validation, that was very powerful. I think just expanding it into a toolkit, lowering the fees that they make, because again, you will never attract anything actually valuable this way. And yeah, perhaps looking closer to something like OpenSea, like a marketplace of things, but with directed focus, right? That is probably the best direction you can take if you believe that the ICM meta will happen on belief.
Yeah, so you're saying to keep leaning into that soft curation that they were doing, where it's permissionless to launch, but then they would select different projects to like feature on their page and to show people on their app. You like that part of it, right?
Yeah, I think it's very powerful because it focuses attention. That was one of the few things that were right.
I agree.
There's
Yeah.
two things that are very powerful in this platform. The first one, which I always like and try to find in platforms and launches in Web3, is like we have a lot of KOLs, important people that would love to make money from their position. And the easiest way to do so is probably launching a token. So the biggest winners and that you can find that can leverage this position are platforms that try to create a disconnect between the person itself, the KOL, and the token that they have. So think of things like time.fun, which you're just getting onboarded. You can sell your time, and you don't have to pump it as a KOL, but you can still make money from other people speculating on it. Or Boop, if they had done the 50-50 split at the beginning, could have turned into, hey, I'm claiming my airdrop. If you are my audience, feel free to take the other 50%, but you need to buy the token for it. It kind of removes responsibility. And here for Believe, it's about, again, creating a disconnect between the person itself and putting it on a product that they have. So, um, it's this liability disconnect, which is extremely powerful in platforms, generally in Web3. It's a
How
very
would
good
you?
way to,
Yeah, I'd love to
go.
get more specific on that because I can't think of a way to like do that in this case with the ICM markets. I love your analogy to time.fun, and I see what you're getting at. But if you could expand on that and get a little bit more granular, could you?
Um, for time to fund, I mean,
Sorry, no,
okay.
for how Believe would implement that kind of
Oh,
distancing. Like, how
sorry.
would an
I mean,
ICM founder distance themselves from a project that they're supposedly like working on, and or like the token, you know?
yeah, I meant it as it's currently happening, right? What's happening is that not necessarily the founder is held accountable for um, the token itself. Yes, it happens more than time dot fund, but the token itself can be framed as being tied more to the success of the platform. So that is the disconnect that is happening. If the underlying product does not succeed, it's not necessarily the founder's fault. It might be others not recognizing it. That is the liability disconnect that I see, which is, less apparent than something like Time.Fun, but it's still there, and it's, I think powerful in general to onboard people without making them to expose as a personal brand. But on the other side, this reliance on feeds on fees does create a situation where the creator himself is also actually tied to creating hype for the coin if they want to sustain volume and speculation. So it's a double-edged sword, but on the one side, the the base case is that there is a disconnect. Then, if the founder wants to upkeep, making money, then they need to keep speculation going. And the other interesting thing is that probably all this product will never make as much money from selling your service than they're gonna make from speculation. So uh, the best thing you can do as a founder at that point is not really sustaining your project and continuing development. It's more about constantly creating hype and attention, which is the most profitable thing you can do on Volume. So
Yeah,
it's
and
a bit
so
of broken mechanics that could use fixing depending on the direction you want to go in.
yeah, I mean, what do you think about my solution of like fixing the ability to get your supply of your own token and reward the founder that way, and like maybe lowering the fees? Do you feel like that would be a solution?
I'm not sure. I mean, currently it's a very weird position because currently Believe uh, got a lot of attention also because of these egregious fees and success stories in that sense, right? That's what attracted people. So changing things too much might completely kill off the hype because it's the extractive part that gets money to the creators that is upkeeping the platform. What needs to happen first, and maybe slowly phasing out the fees, but on the token side, yes, you need tighter control. Usually, the real projects would have a part which is for the team, one that is for the liquidity pool, one for um, selling to VCs, another one for paying for sex and sex listings and market makers. Some have investing on top. All of this calls for a toolkit implementation more than um, what the current thing is, which is, a very simple MVP, which is just using Matera under the hood,
Yeah.
and that's it.
It is a very simple MVP. I'm really excited about the idea of like what belief coins are trying to get at, which in my view is giving liquid equity to startups and letting people gamble on that. I think that's like a huge that will have PMF and it kind of does. I think this is the first example of that. Um,
The
believe isn't marketing themselves that. Sorry, go ahead.
the other thing was, we saw the screenshot coming out many times from their frequently asked questions. that said, as a creator, you're never say that your token is tied to equity or stuff like that. I forgot the correct verbiage, but um, on this side, it's also there's no clarity if the token means equity for the startups or people that launch. The another bull case could be that these are simply worthless tokens, hype tokens that you use for initial fundraising, and then you completely abandon once you have a a working product. You just got, liquid cash to actually build something meaningful that is extremely powerful for you as a founder because, but obviously you're going to anger a lot of people doing it that way.
Yeah, because that's not
Um,
what the market wants. The market wants this stuff to be like equity, in my view. That's my sense of things.
yeah,
Because that's what I want. I mean, I'm just speaking for myself. I want to be able to be like, hey, I love this startup. I'm going to buy its token and have that be sort of like equity or like a claim on future cash flow so that maybe at some point, 5 years from now, that startup makes 200K in revenue a year. I get a portion of that, because I believed in them early. I think that's what I want, and I believe I speak for a lot of other investors, and that's what they want. Now, the belief team is saying the explicit opposite of that, saying don't say that because it's a legal hazard is the main reason. I
yeah.
think if it was legal to do so, we would be embracing this. I think because it's so like at the heart of crypto. It's programmable money and it's permissionless and all this stuff and it's hyper gambling. So I guess I'd like to hear your perspective on that as well.
Yeah, again, I think it is this kind of confusion is great for the founders and teams because you are neither tied to making it equity and caring for it forever, but uh, you can also reap all the benefits of people believing that it is. Um, so if purely from a pragmatic point of view, where I'm a founder, I want to launch something, I already have a weekend project, what do I do? Yeah, like. Believe is a very valuable alternative where you can get some quick-ish cash, depending on how much attention and hype you can generate. You get actual cash, and then you can develop your platform further however you want. And if you actually do succeed, you also have the option to not honor the tokens as actual equity and actually, have tight control over your token as well if you ever need one further down the line. So it is powerful for creators in that sense. It's not a genuine way to use the platform, but it is there, right? And as a buyer of these coins, are taking all the liability with it of this confusion or loophole,
Yeah.
which.
I wonder which I think we might see other launch pads come out and really try and hone in on the regulatory aspect of it to make it so that they guide people to make these things like equity but legally. There are legal frameworks to do that, and like I like to take Hyperliquid as a great example because Hyperliquid is like the OG is the best internet capital markets coin because it's like a software product that makes a crap load of money and distributes it all back to holders in the form of buybacks. That 95% of it or whatever goes to buying hype off the open market, which if you do the math, it kind of functions like a dividend in terms of how much value goes back to shareholders or token holders. It functions like a dividend in that way, and that's like the closest thing to equity that I've seen from a successful business in crypto. And I guess I'm curious to hear your perspective on that hyperliquid analogy.
I think there's yeah, quite a few um, Web3 projects, protocols, whatever that do buybacks and are successful in it, and treat their token holders more as shareholders. That is completely true, but there's always a disconnect between actual equity and that. Um, Hyperliquid is a very special case. They do have a lot of volume on their exchange. They're able to do that. They'll, have pretty fat treasury as well, so they can afford it. You have more traditional companies such as MakerDAO. MakerDAO has a lot of buybacks. Um, yeah, I don't think at the scale of Hyperliquid, but still very, very sizable. And that feels more maybe like traditional stock. They've been around for very long. They've always, we also have the governance side, so you are actually a shareholder and can have a say. Um, yeah, like for Believe, it's absolutely not mature enough in this current form. Um, it could definitely evolve in that direction, but it's something every single product in general can do, right? Um, yeah, not sure further analogies there.
Yeah. Um, so we talked a bit about what you would do differently if you were Believe. Have you been keeping up with this meta much, or is it kind of like a peripheral thing to you?
No, I mean it kind of faded away on my timeline. It was the hot topic back then. I do see your threads, other people's threads every now and then pop up, and I do, see what's happening. But I don't think much has changed since. Also, I did like my dashboard, Dashcoin. Um, I just saw that the fees were lowered to a 30/70, but that was it. Anything else changed in the past 2 weeks or so? Or
Um, I've been so on the founder side and like talking with people that I'm not. There's definitely been some changes on the Believe side. I think the 70-30 split is one of the more major updates. Um, yeah, so nothing crazy. I think it's been pretty mellow. Like people just
yeah.
kind of building and hoping and
Oh yeah.
accumulating bags.
I saw that they did change to the Matera Dam V2 for collecting all fees in Solana, right? Um,
Yes.
that technology was there since the beginning. It's just that Dex Screener did not support it, and legions do want Dex Screener, otherwise they do not trade a coin somehow. Um, so yeah, like that is definitely a positive change. We both know how unreliable the 2% of volume was for calculating the payout because they were incurring a lot of impermanent loss and selling whenever they wanted. They then switched to a much higher frequency of claiming for the fees, which was definitely a good initial step, but they were still not giving out the token portion, which went down for most creators in the meanwhile. Now they just switched to, I think, collecting all fees in Sol. So that should be a decent upgrade. This is seen as cash flow for the founders, it should feel like cash as well, right? So
Hmm.
definitely a positive change in that direction.
Yeah. If you were to build an ICM like Launchpad yourself from scratch, like what are maybe five things that you would do to like make it a success? What are the maybe five things you would focus on?
Um, I think again, success comes from attention, and attention comes from selling dreams. And the biggest dream you can sell is the current one, where again um, you need to onboard uh, what to creators, artists, whatever that come over, bring over their audiences, and kind of replicate what happened in the NFT wave of 2019, 2020. That's what people want and the biggest dream you can sell. So a lot of the work would actually not be on the tech side. You need to have a good narrative, find good names, or perhaps find initial people that can kickstart this narrative that your platform is the one, right? Which I believe already has. Um, yeah, I think a lot of things in Web3 are mostly based on attention, high, not necessarily the tech side. On the tech side, though, if you do want to attract people and creators, I think what Believe did in having very high fees is a good idea because you need that bang that can make news also in Web2. But then to actually expand and become a serious thing that can be considered by actual real projects outside of weekend projects or small ones is evolving into a toolkit So giving much more control. Also, perhaps integration with things like Autonomous, which is a very cool online legal firm that allows you to create entities in just 5 minutes. So giving out a toolkit for founders, both on the legal side, both maybe on the connecting on the marketing, on artists, tighter controls on the token supply, you have to evolve into the a direction where you become a startup studio in a sense, right? You can configure everything, self-services within, and that's it. If you actually want to create a proper, real thing that gets used by proper companies with value. But also, it's
Yeah.
it's kind of like you can never really um, fully attract very valuable companies as they're always going to take a fee in perpetuity, like a belief. That's their business model. And if you have a valuable company, you do not want to give away fees to someone else in perpetuity for something that happened only initially. You might want to give a one-off fee for the attention that gets generated at the beginning. But it would be insane to think that real companies would want to, you know, give fees in perpetuity. Well,
Yeah.
one thing that I think that's it. Sorry.
Yeah. And then I definitely agree with you about the fees in perpetuity being kind of like not ideal. I feel like there's got to be a point at which Believe stops taking a fee or something like that, and that can kind of be done by making a new liquidity pool. As far as I can tell, as my understanding is that once you make
Yeah.
the new liquidity pool, it gets bigger and bigger, and then eventually liquidity like orders stop flowing through the old one, and that way you can kind of
So
eventually like gradually cut them out. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no, no. Like, I mean, the fee can absolutely exist as a cash flow method in perpetuity. What I mean is just Believe taking their own split. The split is just happens off chain. What happens is they have a bot which claims from the liquidity pool all the fees, then splits them in 50-50 and sends 50% to the creator, and they keep their own share. That's
Gotcha.
what happens, and they just need to disable this thing. And yeah, I think a much more clean and viable direction could be in selling services. If you do become a toolkit, again, you can literally sell legal services for the setup process and on one-time setup fees. Or you could also have, I don't know, API access, which is paid with subscriptions and so on. It's not as valuable as taking 50% or 30% of the fees because attention and speculation is much more profitable than selling the product. But if it was to become an actual proper platform that gets usage from real companies, then yeah, that's what you need to do. But it is a thinner margin industry to enable this
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
I'd even suggest you could do a little bit of both, where you offer those like services as well, but you can still take the fee. Just it wouldn't be in perpetuity. I feel like that's the real issue is that it goes on forever, no matter how big you get. There's no like way out of it. But if they said like, okay, we're gonna take fees until we make 500K off your project, so it's like if you get super big,
Yeah.
you'll surpass that, and then we're not taking any more fees, something like that. That's just
You can
like
also
shooting from the
go.
hip here.
You can also go for a dual system where you like have one white glove front end for bigger projects where you do custom like deals with them, and on the other side they have the more studio grunge, um, you know, solo dev front with a higher fee on that side.
I
Because
love that
what
approach
these
actually.
yeah what these weekend projects are paying for is the initial attention you get by launching on Belief, right?
Hmm.
That's what's up.
Yep.
Um, you could easily implement the fee side yourself also. There's nothing very special about Believe in the current state besides the attention that it has and the dream that it sells and the audience that it
Hmm.
has.
Yeah, they have
So yeah,
incredible distribution. And so you're the creator of Loudio. You've created quite the storm on Twitter, lots of attention. Um, and you're also tinkering with the flywheel of Loudio. You have a very unique take on that, and you've spent a lot of attention of your own time building that. And I want to talk a little bit about Loudio and your flywheel, and then maybe talk about what Launchcoin could do, and that like lessons maybe you've learned from thinking through your own project that you would apply to Launchcoin.
Yeah. Yeah. On the time side, yeah, I don't like to inflate things. I was telling many times on Spaces that this was an idea that from when it was conceived to market a week passed, right? It was just a very quick iteration. So yeah, it's nothing absolutely incredible. What was very interesting to me was just the connect of the two. You are connecting 8.0, which has its very, very efficient distribution mechanism, which we are seeing being used by very, very large protocols and chains right now, which works basically by tracking mindshare generated by accounts and then rewarding them proportionally by how much they contributed to the project's mindshare. This is the best kind of distribution system because you just dangle a carrot in front of anybody that wants to come in and get much more output for every dollar spent in terms of people working for it, right? It's better than Galaxy Quest, it's better than paying for KOL deals. I think it's the most efficient kind of system, right? It's about connecting this with the worthless side of coins, so meme coins, that what they want generally is attention to be recognized by big accounts or the biggest promotional event for a meme coin would be to be noticed by Ansem and tweeted about, right? That's what people want. So why not connect the two and create the purest system where you have on the one side every trade of the coin going to incentivizing this marketing pot, and on the other side using the most efficient distribution method for this money and generating attention. That was what Loud is. And it was inspired partially by Believe and by the whole uh, Yap meta. For Believe, yeah, I just was very interested to see that there was a market for high fee coins that, and coming from an EVM background, it sounds absolutely ridiculous that people spend 2% on a swap and then 1% on top by using Axiom or other bots. But it was just an eye-opener to see that Solana people value speed of execution and just timing the market more than actual swap fees or slippage, which was very interesting. So I was like, hey, they don't really feel this as negative. While on EVM, you cannot charge these absurd fees. Why not try to simply, it feels seamless to them to trade this coin, but on the other side, handle marketing budget for them that generates attention in perpetuity. That was the base idea for Loud.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's definitely a unique idea. And yeah, I mean, you said it only took you a week to build it, and that's great. But the idea, and you spent a lot of time thinking about it. Still, I mean, even if it's not a crazy amount of time, it's still you spent time thinking about it, and you built the product around it. And so I want to hear your take also on the Launchcoin flywheel. If you were Ben, what would you do to incentivize people to use that coin to like kind of complete the synergy between what Believe is and what Launchcoin is?
Good question. I'm not really sure. I also think it's kind of confusing the current relationship between Launchcoin itself and Believe. It's half adopted, half not. Um, yeah, perhaps clarifying what it is would be a very good first step. But on the flywheel side, yeah, not sure. Again, like
That's a good answer too. I mean,
yeah,
it's okay to not know. I think that's what I've learned a lot recently is that we're all like figuring stuff out. All the Believe founders, like Ben himself, most people in crypto who are building projects, even outside of Believe, it's just like you fuck around and find out, man. That's what Meow from Jupe always says. Like it's really true. So it's okay to not know. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Um,
Ultra. Do you have any closing words before we wrap up here?
No, that's it. I mean, I hope to see the ICM meta evolve beyond what it currently is. I think, there is, as I said, something powerful in enabling uh, either live coders or smaller projects into bringing their ideas online and getting more attention. Just, yeah, we have to see exactly what the real bull case there is here. We're gonna see.
Yep. I think it stays interesting, and we'll see. I'm excited to be on the forefront of this and trying spending all my time doing it every day and learning about all these different projects and coming up with ways to make it better. Thank you so much for your time, Ultra. It's great to have you here. I really appreciate your insights, and I wish you the best of luck with whatever cool thing you build next.
Thank you. Likewise.